Lovely. So this is just a few charts on the e-group, and I'm sure that all of you have already found the e-group to be a really amazing asset. I know I was genuinely surprised and amazed by it when I first joined the ICG about 4.5 years ago, and it provided a resource for me that I so wished I'd had when I'd been in a big corporate research environment. It's very sharing, it's very open. I've asked questions and answered questions on business issues, on project design, on all sorts of things. And the richness of the questions never ceases to amaze me. The examples on the page here are all real questions. I think one of the other best ones I think I have seen was about paint supplies in Azerbaijan, and somebody had the answer. Sometimes it might need a little reminder, but I have to say it has been it's such a great asset, and everybody is so collaborative. Some of us do compete with one another, but everybody is still open to help. So nowadays, the e-group is actually provided by a hosting provider. We work with a company which is actually based in Australia, but they support and host an e-group solution that has been in use around the world for many years. Um, in order to access or change your information, you can now go through the member page, go to the link called eGroup Administration, log on. It's a good idea to make sure you know what your logon is. You will be issued initially with a different one from your membership logon. Some people have opted to have the same logon, not always a good idea, but again, you can personalize and update it easily. If you log on to the e-group and access it, you can change your settings for when you're away, so your inbox doesn't get filled up with interesting posts. You can opt between whether you want the email posts live or whether you receive the digest. You can search the archive, and that archive goes back about 7 years. The archive search engine looks a bit rudimentary, but it's actually very powerful, and you can select by time, by specific words and various other aspects, and it's actually a much more powerful search engine than we had on our previous supplier. And now it's all bolted into our website and we have control of it. What you can't do, because it is a plain text service, is you cannot attach files and you cannot attach photos. Similarly, if you have an HTML default setting for your webmail client, it will turn it into plain text, and that then has set that for concerns about virus sharing. There are occasions when people send from, it appears, from their smartphones, and the webmail client is a little bit non-standard, that it will come up with one of those strange looking empty messages. You can actually read the message if you log on and click into the link, but just beware of your settings sometimes. The important thing is that you can't send attachments or files. If you want to do that, you will need to do that outside the e-group. Now, netiquette is really important. I'm sure we've all had those emails from clients that look really grumpy, and then when you phone them up, you find that they were really busy or they just don't write very good emails. So we have a number of very straightforward rules that we have in the e-group, and they're very important ones because it is a closed e-group. It is for members only. And so the important thing is none of the content that is shared on the e-group should go outside the e-group. It is a confidential discussion. Um, be very careful about the tone. It's not a scary place at all. Everybody's very friendly, but it's not a good idea to pick fights, and be careful about your wording. Also, be very objective. It's also fun. Some of you may have noticed, some of you new joiners may have noticed occasionally somebody is referred to as Princess Corky. That came from a joke of one of our members, who was actually treated like a princess when she was picked up by one of the car services back to London, and it's become a sort of standing in joke. But it is good fun. We try and keep some of the joke stuff to a Friday, and it's a good idea if you're going to send something that's not really work related with a sort of off message or Friday fun prefix, so people know that it's a bit of fun. The default response on the e-group is to reply to the individual. Just like any email, you can reply to all, which would go to all the e-group. But do be careful. Our old e-group supplier, it defaulted to reply to all. And so we set this one to reply to individuals, to avoid those embarrassing moments when you email somebody that's offering your services, which really shouldn't go to the whole group. It should only go to the individual involved. It's not hard. It's just like using your email and making sure that if you want to send to the individual, that's the default. Just check what the settings are in your two boxes on your email clients. Another very important thing to remember is that people who are receiving the digest, if you don't trim the tail off an email, and I know when I first was on the e-group, I was very, very guilty of this myself, is that they will get the whole of the tail. If everybody leaves the tail on their e-group posts, the poor old digest receivers will get this massive document. So it's very easy in some email clients to just trim the end off. It will just highlight the first few names. In fact, for me, it's easier to do on my phone than it is on a PC. But just think, it was brought home to me the other week when somebody sent an email around and there were 22 pages of digest attached to the rest of one little response. So do remember to trim the tail. Just include your response or any little relevant bits that will make your response look sensible. We have a very strict anti-spam policy. It has been debated on a number of occasions in committee, but the death of many e-communities has been self-promotion. And I'm sure all of us, or many of us, have seen this happen to a number of groups on LinkedIn, where all you get is spam from various suppliers, and therefore the value of the group is undermined. Therefore, you cannot promote yourself on the e-group. You can recommend somebody else or you can contact somebody directly, but promoting yourself on the group is one of those things that we have a little word with people about, and if they are persistent offenders, then we will actually remove their e-group access, usually for a month. It doesn't very often happen, and people usually do this completely by accident, but it's much less easy to do it by accident nowadays with the new e-group setup. So recommendations are welcome, particularly if they are for other ICG members, but they're very, very helpful for members to make recommendations of good experiences you have had. Where my controls gone? There we go. The one thing that we found has been a little bit less successful with the new eGroup solution is the digest. Our old provider had a lot of problems, and we had many members who did not want to use the provider of our old eGroup. So we moved to this independent solution, and we've had much better take up. The digest isn't as friendly. We haven't found a means yet of getting it as friendly as the old one. So one good way to manage your e-group mails is to set up a folder, and Ben has included an example from Outlook here, where you can identify the header in terms of the address that your eGroup mails are coming from, and you can put them into a folder, and that can be a lot easier than dealing with a digest. I have to say, I don't think there are that many eGroup mails a day, and I find they're quite fun and quite diverting. And it's easy not to click on them, and sometimes you'll learn something really quickly. So on to the last slide. We do occasionally have problems. We have a lot fewer problems with our new provider. They did put a new update on the other week, and suddenly the sharing wasn't working properly, but they're very good and communicate with us quickly, and it gets fixed. If you can't work out how to set up your holiday setting, or switching from the instant delivery to the digest, then Andy Lang, our administrator, is very experienced. She also has admin rights to this, and Andy and Ben, who's our eGroup moderator, will be able to help you if things aren't quite working as you expect. You can email me as well, but I don't have admin rights to the eGroup, but I'll make sure somebody can get onto the case too. So that's the top line on the eGroup.